The moment Derek announced to the entire restaurant that he was dumping McKenna because she'd gotten fat, a Korean stranger stood from his table and walked over with the kind of controlled fury that made everyone stop talking. And when he said just his name, Sang-woo, McKenna's ex went pale and literally ran out the door like he'd seen a ghost. This beautiful, dangerous man then knelt beside her chair in front of everyone and confessed something that should have been creepy, but somehow wasn't. I've been coming here every Thursday just to watch you, and I finally have my chance to speak to you. Then he made her an offer she can't stop thinking about even now. What McKenna doesn't realise, as she's considering this stranger's proposal, is that across town 5 armed men are already planning to use her as a weapon against him, and the decision she makes in the next 60 seconds will either save her life or destroy everything. But she won't know which until it's far too late to change her mind. Hit subscribe as we dive into this beautiful story that will leave you breathless. The wine glass trembled in McKenna's hand as Derek leaned back in his chair, that fake smile plastered across his face. Around them, the fancy Chicago restaurant buzzed with conversation and clinking silverware, but McKenna felt like she was sitting in a spotlight. "You know what, McKenna? I think we should see other people," Derek said, loud enough that the couple at the next table glanced over. McKenna's stomach dropped. "What? Derek, what are you talking about?" He sighed dramatically, like she was being difficult. "Come on. You had to know this wasn't going to last forever. I mean, look at you. When we started dating, you were smaller. Now you've just let yourself go completely." Heat rushed to McKenna's face. Her dark skin probably hid the blush, but she felt it burning from her cheeks down to her neck. "I haven't changed that much. I've gained maybe 10 pounds since grad school started." "Try 30, Derek shot back. His blue eyes were cold now, nothing like the warm looks he used to give her. "And honestly, I'm tired of pretending I'm okay with it. My friends keep asking me why I'm with someone who looks well, like you. A big African girl. It's embarrassing." The words hit McKenna like slaps. She gripped the edge of the table, willing herself not to cry in front of all these people. She'd moved from Tanzania to Chicago for her graduate program in public health, and Derek had been one of the first people to make her feel welcome in this big, cold city. Now he was tearing her apart in public. "You're really doing this here. Now!" McKenna's voice came out smaller than she wanted. Derek shrugged and pulled out his wallet, tossing some bills on the table. "Better to rip the bandage off quick, right? Look, you're a nice girl, but I need someone who takes care of themselves, someone who fits in at my company events, someone hot." McKenna felt tears building behind her. Eyes, she wouldn't let them fall. She wouldn't give him that satisfaction. But her hands were shaking, and she could feel people staring now, their conversations dying down as they picked up on the drama happening at table 7. "I hope you find what you're looking for," McKenna managed to say, her voice tight. "Oh, I already have," Derek said with a smirk. "Been seeing Rachel from accounting for a couple weeks now. Blonde, thin, the whole package. I just wanted to officially end things with you before I made it public." That's when the tears actually started to come. McKenna looked down at her plate of half-eaten pasta, trying to hide her face. 2 years. She'd wasted 2 years on this man. 2 years of cooking his favourite meals, supporting him through his job stress, believing him when he said her curves were beautiful. "Wow, you're really going to cry?" Derek stood up, grabbing his jacket. "This is exactly why this isn't working. You're too emotional, too sensitive. Grow up, McKenna." He turned to leave, and McKenna wanted to disappear. She wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. Around the restaurant, and she could hear whispers starting. Could feel eyes on her, the big black girl who just got dumped because she wasn't good enough. Then a voice cut through the noise like a knife. "You should leave now, while you still can." The voice was deep, accented, and carried so much authority that the entire restaurant seemed to freeze. McKenna looked up through her tears and saw a man standing from a table near the window. He was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that probably cost more than McKenna's entire wardrobe. His black hair was styled perfectly, and his dark eyes were fixed on Derek with an intensity that made McKenna shiver. Derek turned, his expression annoyed. "Excuse me, this is a private conversation." The man walked toward them, with smooth, powerful steps. Now that he was closer, McKenna could see he was Korean, maybe in his early 30s, with sharp cheekbones and full lips set in a hard line. Everything about him screamed danger and money. "There is nothing private about humiliating a woman in a crowded restaurant," the man said, his accent making each word sound deliberate. "You will leave now, and you will not speak to her again." Derek's face flushed red. "Who the hell do you think you are?" The man smiled, but it wasn't friendly. It was the kind of smile a wolf gives before it attacks. "I think you should ask around about Sang-woo before you decide to test me tonight." McKenna watched Derek's expression change. His eyes went wide, and the colour drained from his face so fast she thought he might faint. He took a step back, nearly tripping over his own feet. "I didn't know. I wasn't—" Derek stammered. "Leave," Sang-woo said simply. Derek practically ran for the door, abandoning his jacket and his dignity. The restaurant was completely silent now, everyone watching this unfold like it was a movie. McKenna sat frozen, her tears still wet on her cheeks, not understanding what just happened. Then Sang-woo did something that made McKenna's heart stop. He walked to her side of the table and lowered himself onto one knee beside her chair. Up close, he was even more handsome. His dark eyes softened as they met hers, and he reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. When she didn't move, he took her hand gently in both of his. His hands were warm and strong, and McKenna felt electricity shoot up her arm at the contact. "I am sorry you had to experience that," Sang-woo said, his voice quieter now, but still carrying to every corner of the restaurant. "That man is a fool who does not deserve even a moment of your time." McKenna's mouth was dry. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." Sang-woo's thumb brushed across her knuckles, sending more tingles through her body. "I have watched you come to this restaurant for 6 weeks now. Every Thursday evening, you sit by the window with your books and your laptop, and you light up the entire room. You are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen." McKenna's breath caught. "I don't understand." Sang-woo smiled, and this time it was real, warm. "Have dinner with me, right now. Let me show you how a real man treats a queen." Around them, McKenna heard gasps and whispers. She knew she should say no. This was crazy. This stranger had just defended her honor like something out of a movie, and now he was asking her out while still kneeling beside her chair. It was too much, too fast, too everything. But those dark eyes held hers, and McKenna felt something shift in her chest, something that made her want to be brave. "I don't even know you," she whispered. "Then let me introduce myself properly. I am Sang-woo. I own several businesses here in Chicago. I am originally from Seoul. I like long walks by the lake, old movies, and women who have the strength to pursue their dreams in a foreign country." His lips quirked. "And I have been trying to find the courage to speak to you for 6 weeks. That coward just gave me the perfect opportunity." McKenna felt a laugh bubble up through her tears. "That's the worst introduction I've ever heard. Then have dinner with me and let me improve it." Sang-woo squeezed her hand. "Please, give me one evening to make you forget that man ever existed." McKenna looked into his eyes and saw something there that Derek had never shown her. Real interest, real attraction, real respect. It terrified her and thrilled her at the same time. "Okay," she heard herself say. "One dinner." Sang-woo's smile could have lit up the whole city. He stood smoothly and helped her to her feet, his hand settling on the small of her back. The touch was possessive but gentle, and it made McKenna's skin feel hot even through her dress. He guided her to his table by the window, holding out her chair like she was royalty. As McKenna sat down, she caught sight of her reflection in the window. Her eyes were still red from crying, her makeup slightly smudged. She looked like a mess. But when Sang-woo settled into the chair across from her, the way he looked at her made McKenna feel like the most desirable woman in the world. "Tell me everything about yourself," he said, signalling a waiter with just a lift of his finger. "I want to know what brought you to Chicago, what you study, what you dream about at night." And as the waiter poured them fresh wine and brought new menus, McKenna felt the weight of Derek's cruel words start to lift. She didn't know who this mysterious man was, or why he'd chosen to rescue her, but sitting across from Sang-woo, with his intense gaze focused entirely on her, McKenna felt beautiful for the first time in months, and she wanted more. McKenna twisted her napkin under the table, trying to calm her racing heart. Across from her, Sang-woo watched her with those intense dark eyes that seemed to see right through her defences. The restaurant had slowly returned to normal noise levels, but she could still feel curious glances directed their way. "You don't have to do this," McKenna said quietly. "I appreciate what you did back there, but you don't owe me anything. You can go back to your evening." Sang-woo leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. The movement brought him closer, and McKenna caught the scent of his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her stomach flutter. "Do you think I interrupted your nightmare of a breakup out of pity?" His voice was low and serious. "Let me be very clear, McKenna. I have been coming to this restaurant every Thursday for the past 6 weeks for one reason only, to see you." McKenna blinked. "That's not possible. I would have noticed you. You were always too focused on your studies, or on him." Sang-woo's jaw tightened slightly when he mentioned Derek. "I would sit at this table, the one with the best view of the window seats, and I would watch you work. The way you chew your pen when you're thinking. The way you smile at the waiters, even when you're stressed. The way you take off your shoes under the table when you think no one is looking." Heat flooded McKenna's face. "You watched me take off my shoes." A smile played at Sang-woo's lips. "I watched everything about you, and every week I told myself I would introduce myself, but you always had him with you, hanging on you like he owned you. It made me angry." The waiter arrived with their drinks, and McKenna took a long sip of her wine, needing the courage. This was insane. This beautiful, powerful man was saying he'd been watching her for weeks. She should be scared or uncomfortable. Instead, she felt desired in a way Derek had never made her feel. "Why didn't you just come over anyway?" McKenna asked. "Because I could see you cared for him. I would not disrespect that." Sang-woo's fingers traced the rim of his glass. "But tonight, when I heard the poison, he was speaking to you. When I saw tears in your eyes, I could not stay silent anymore. That man deserved much worse than I gave him." Something in his tone made McKenna shiver. There was a darkness there, something dangerous lurking beneath the sophisticated surface. "He seemed really scared of you. Why?" Sang-woo studied her for a long moment. "Because I am not a man. People cross lightly in this city. I have power, connections, resources. Your ex-boyfriend knows this. He knows that if I wanted to, I could make his life very difficult." "Are you threatening him?" McKenna wasn't sure how she felt about that. "I am protecting you," Sang-woo corrected. "There is a difference. He will not bother you again. He will not speak poorly of you to others. He will pretend you never existed. This I promise you." The certainty in his voice should have frightened McKenna. Instead, it made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt in years, like someone was finally in her corner, ready to fight for her. "Tell me about Tanzania," Sangwoo said, smoothly changing the subject. "What was it like growing up there?" For the next hour, they talked, really talked. Sangwoo asked questions about her childhood in Dar es Salaam, her large family, her decision to come to America for graduate school. He listened with complete attention, asking follow-up questions that showed he was genuinely interested. When she told him about her mother's cooking, his eyes lit up. When she described missing the ocean, he looked thoughtful. In return, he told her about Seoul, about growing up in a wealthy but complicated family, about coming to Chicago 5 years ago to build his own empire. He was careful about details, she noticed, but the broad strokes painted a picture of a man who was powerful, ambitious, and lonely. "You must have women throwing themselves at you constantly," McKenna said, then immediately wished she could take it back. Too forward, too obvious. But Sangwoo just smiled. "Beautiful women, yes, interesting women, rarely. Women who make me forget the rest of the world exists." He locked eyes with her. "Only one." McKenna's breath caught. "You barely know me." "I know enough. I know you work 2 jobs while finishing your graduate degree. I know you send money home to your family every month, even though it means you eat cheap food and wear the same 3 dresses in rotation. I know you volunteer at the community health clinic on Saturdays. I know you are brilliant, kind, and stronger than you realize." "How do you know all that?" McKenna whispered. Sangwoo had the grace to look slightly guilty. "I may have asked around, made some inquiries. I wanted to know what kind of woman captured my attention so completely." Any other time, McKenna might have found this creepy, but the way Sangwoo said it, like he was confessing something precious, it felt different. It felt like being treasured. Their food arrived, and they ate slowly, continuing to talk and laugh. Sangwoo told stories about his early days in Chicago that made McKenna giggle. She shared embarrassing moments from her first months in America that had him grinning. The chemistry between them was undeniable, crackling in the air like electricity before a storm. When dessert came, Sangwoo's expression turned serious again. He reached across the table and took her hand, his thumb stroking her palm in a way that made heat pool in McKenna's belly. "I want to make you an offer," he said carefully, "and I need you to hear me completely before you answer." McKenna's heart pounded. "Okay, move in with me. Let me take care of you. Let me give you the life you deserve." McKenna nearly choked on her wine. "What? Are you crazy? We just met. We have been circling each other for 6 weeks, and in the past 2 hours, I have learned more about you than most people learn about someone in 6 months. McKenna, I am not a patient man. When I see something I want, I take it. And I want you. You want me as what? Your girlfriend? Your mistress?" McKenna pulled her hand back, hurt flashing through her. "I'm not that kind of woman." Sangwoo's eyes flashed with something fierce. "You misunderstand me. I want you as mine, completely, not hidden away like a dirty secret. I want you in my home, in my bed, in my life. I want to take you to dinner and hold your hand in public. I want everyone to know you belong to me." "I don't belong to anyone," McKenna said, but her voice was shaky. "Wrong. You belong to yourself first, always. But I want you to choose to be with me. I want you to let me worship you the way that fool never did." Sangwoo leaned closer, his voice dropping to a husky whisper. "I want to touch every curve of your body and show you exactly how beautiful you are. I want to hear you say my name when I make you feel good. I want to wake up with you in my arms and know that you are safe and cherished." McKenna's whole body felt hot. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Derek's idea of romance was remembering her birthday. This man was offering her everything, and they'd known each other for 2 hours. "This is insane," she breathed. "Yes," Sangwoo agreed. completely insane. But tell me you don't feel it too, this pull between us. Tell me you don't wonder what it would be like." McKenna couldn't tell him that, because it would be a lie. She'd been wondering what it would feel like to kiss him since he'd knelt beside her chair. She'd been imagining those strong hands on her body, that intense focus directed at her pleasure. Her mind was spinning with possibilities that both terrified and excited her. "I don't even know what you do for a living," McKenna said weakly. "I own properties, businesses, investments. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and I want to spend it on you." Sang-woo captured her hand again. "But I will be honest, because you deserve the truth. My life is not always safe. I have enemies, people who would hurt me if they could. If you come into my world, there will be dangers. But I swear on my life, I will protect you from all of it." "What kind of dangers?" McKenna's voice was barely a whisper, the kind that come with power and money in a city like Chicago. "I am not a saint, McKenna. I have done things I am not proud of. I will likely do more, but I will never lie to you, and I will never let anyone harm you. You would be the most protected woman in this city." McKenna's head was spinning. This was too much, too fast, too everything. But when she looked into Sang-woo's eyes, she saw raw honesty there. He wasn't trying to trick her or manipulate her. He was laying all his cards on the table and asking her to take a chance. "I can't just move in with a stranger," McKenna said. "That's not who I am." "Then give me 1 week. Come stay with me for 7 days. Let me show you what life could be like. If at the end of that week you want to leave, I will let you go. No pressure, no guilt. But give me a chance to prove that I can make you happier than you have ever been. And if I say no right now," pain flashed across Sang-woo's face, "then I will pay for this dinner, walk you to your car, and make sure you get home safely. And I will respect your decision, even though it will kill me. But I am hoping you are brave enough to say yes." McKenna looked at this beautiful, dangerous, intense man who was offering her the world. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was a bad idea. She should go home to her tiny apartment, finish her semester, and forget this night ever happened. But another part of her, the part that had been crushed under Derek's cruel words, wanted to be brave, wanted to feel desired and beautiful and cherished, wanted to know what it would be like to be with a real man instead of a boy pretending to be one. 1 week, McKenna heard herself say, "just 1 week, and I keep my apartment. If I don't like it, I leave." Sang-woo's smile was brilliant and triumphant. He brought her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles, his eyes never leaving hers. The touch of his lips on her skin sent fire racing through McKenna's veins. "You will not regret this," he promised. "I will make sure every moment with me is better than anything you have experienced before." As Sang-woo signaled for the check and helped her into her coat, his hand lingering on her shoulders, McKenna wondered what she'd just agreed to. But when he led her outside and wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her close against the Chicago night chill, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, alive, and she wanted more of it. The next evening, McKenna stood in front of the mirror in her tiny apartment, second-guessing everything. Her single suitcase sat by the door, packed with her nicest clothes, though compared to the world Sang-woo clearly lived in, they probably looked like rags. She'd spent the entire day at school distracted, her mind replaying their dinner over and over. Her phone buzzed with a text. "I'm outside. Take your time. No pressure." McKenna looked around her cramped studio. Apartment one last time, the peeling paint, the radiator that never worked quite right, the view of a brick wall. She'd been proud of this place when she first got it. It was hers, earned with her own hard work, but now she was about to walk into a completely different world for 7 days. Her phone rang this time and she answered to hear Sang-woo's deep voice. "Are you okay? If you changed your mind, I understand. No, I'm coming. Just nervous. Don't be. I promise I will be a perfect gentleman, unless you ask me not to be. She could hear the smile in his voice, and it made her own lips curve up. 15 minutes later, Makina was sitting in the back of the most luxurious car she'd ever seen, with Sang-woo beside her. He'd greeted her with a soft kiss on her cheek that had made her skin tingle, then taken her suitcase, like it weighed nothing. You look beautiful, he said, his eyes roaming over her simple dress with obvious appreciation. That colour brings out the gold in your skin. Makina blushed. Derek used to barely notice what she wore. Thank you. The drive through Chicago took 20 minutes, and Makina watched the neighbourhoods change from her familiar working-class area to increasingly expensive streets. Finally, they pulled up to a towering building made of glass and steel that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Sang-woo helped her out of the car, and a doorman immediately appeared to take her bag. Inside, the lobby was all marble and modern art, with a massive flower arrangement that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Good evening, Mr. Sang," the concierge said with a respectful nod. "Welcome home." They rode a private elevator to the top floor, and Makina's ears popped as they rose. When the doors opened, they opened directly into Sang-woo's home, and Makina's breath caught in her throat. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the entire space, showing Chicago spread out below like a blanket of lights. The penthouse was huge, with sleek modern furniture, art on the walls that Makina recognized from her textbooks, and a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a cooking show. "This is your home," Makina whispered. "Our home. For the next week at least." Sang-woo set her suitcase down and came to stand behind her at the windows, his hands settling on her shoulders. "Do you like it? It's incredible. I've never seen anything like this." His hands slid down her arms, leaving goosebumps in their wake. "Come, let me show you your room." Makina followed him through the penthouse. He pointed out the kitchen, the dining room, his home office, and finally led her to a bedroom that was bigger than her entire apartment. The bed was massive, covered in soft-looking sheets. French doors opened onto a private balcony, and through another door she could see a bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. "This is mine?" Makina asked, overwhelmed. "If you want it to be." Sang-woo leaned against the doorframe, watching her. "Though I should tell you, my room is right next door, and my door is always open if you need anything, or if you want company." The way he said it made heat pool low in Makina's belly. She turned to face him, and the intensity in his eyes made her catch her breath. He looked at her like she was the only thing in the world worth looking at. "Are you hungry?" Sang-woo asked. "I can cook for us, or we can order anything you want." "You cook?" Makina couldn't imagine this powerful man in an apron. His smile was warm. "My mother made sure I could take care of myself. I make excellent Korean food. Will you let me cook for you?" An hour later, they sat on his balcony under a blanket of stars, eating bulgogi and kimchi that Sang-woo had prepared while telling her stories about learning to cook as a child. The food was delicious, but Makina barely tasted it. She was too focused on the man across from her, the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed, the way his hands moved when he talked. After dinner, Sang-woo poured them wine, and they stayed on the balcony, talking as the city glowed below them. He asked about her family, and Makina found herself telling him about her 3 younger siblings, her mother's nursing job, her father's small shop. She told him things she'd never told Derek, about missing home but loving the opportunities America offered, about the guilt she felt for leaving her family behind. "You are not leaving them behind," Sang-woo said firmly. "You are building a future that will help all of them. That is love, not abandonment." Something about the way he said it made Makina's eyes sting with tears. How do you always know the right thing to say? Because I see you, Makina, really see you, not the surface but the beautiful soul underneath. He moved closer, and suddenly they were sharing the same chair, his arm around her shoulders. And I want to know everything about that soul. Makina turned to look at him, and the air between them shifted, becoming charged with electricity. Sangwoo's gaze dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes, asking permission. Her heart pounded so hard she thought he must be able to hear it. "Can I kiss you?" he asked softly. "I have been wanting to since the moment I saw you." Instead of answering with words, Makina closed the distance between them. The moment their lips touched, fire exploded through her body. Sangwoo's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb stroking her cheek as he kissed her with a gentleness that made her melt. But the gentleness didn't last long. Makina made a small sound in the back of her throat, and it was like something broke free in Sangwoo. His other hand tangled in her hair, and the kiss deepened, became hungry and demanding. Makina found herself climbing into his lap, straddling him, her hands gripping his shoulders. Sangwoo groaned against her mouth, his hands sliding down to grip her waist, then lower to cup her hips. He pulled her closer, and Makina could feel exactly how much he wanted her. The feeling of his desire pressing against her made her gasp and rock against him. "Makina!" He breathed against her lips. "We should stop. I promise to be a gentleman." "What if I don't want you to be?" The words came out before she could stop them, brave and bold. Sangwoo pulled back to look at her, his eyes dark with desire. "Are you sure?" "I don't want you to do anything you're not ready for." In answer, Makina kissed him again, pouring all her want and need into it. She'd never felt this way before, like her skin was on fire and only his touch could cool it. Derek had never made her feel a fraction of this desire. Sangwoo stood smoothly, lifting her with him like she weighed nothing. Makina wrapped her legs around his waist as he carried her inside, their mouths still locked together. He walked them to his bedroom, kicking the door closed behind them. He laid her on his bed, like she was made of glass, then stood back to look at her. "You are so beautiful, it hurts to look at you." "Then don't look," Makina whispered. "Touch instead." Sangwoo's eyes flared with heat. He climbed onto the bed, settling between her legs, and began to kiss her neck. His lips traced a path down to her collarbone, and Makina arched into him, her hands fumbling with the buttons of his shirt. She needed to feel his skin against hers. He helped her push his shirt off, and Makina ran her hands over his chest, feeling the hard muscles there. Sangwoo shuddered under her touch, then reached for the zipper of her dress. "Tell me if you want me to stop," he said, his voice rough. "At any moment, just say the word." But Makina didn't want him to stop. She helped him pull her dress over her head, and for a moment she felt self-conscious, thinking about all the things Derek had said about her body. But the way Sangwoo looked at her, like she was the most precious thing he'd ever seen, made those insecurities melt away. "Perfect," he breathed, his hands tracing the curves of her hips, her waist, her breasts. "Every inch of you is absolutely perfect." He kissed her again, slower this time, worshipping her mouth while his hands explored her body. Every touch made Makina feel more beautiful, more desired. He took his time, learning what made her gasp, what made her moan his name. When he finally removed the rest of their clothes, Makina felt a moment of nervousness, but Sangwoo kissed her fears away, whispering Korean words against her skin that sounded like prayers. He touched her with reverence, like she was something sacred. "Are you sure?" he asked one more time, positioned above her, his whole body trembling with restraint. "Yes," Makina breathed. "Please, Sangwoo, I need you." He entered her slowly, carefully, his eyes locked on hers. The feeling of him filling her made Makina cry out, her hands gripping his shoulders. He started to move, and it was nothing like the quick, selfish encounters she'd had with Derek. This was slow and deep and intimate, with Sang-woo watching her face the whole time, adjusting his movements to her reactions. "Look at me," he commanded softly, when her eyes started to drift closed. "I want to see you, all of you." Then Makina met his gaze, and the intimacy of it, the connection, sent her spiraling toward pleasure she'd never experienced before. Sang-woo seemed to know exactly what she needed, his hand sliding between them, to touch her in ways that made stars explode behind her eyes. When she finally fell apart beneath him, calling his name, Sang-woo followed moments later, burying his face in her neck and groaning her name like a prayer. They lay tangled together afterward, sweaty and breathless, and Makina felt tears sliding down her temples. "Did I hurt you?" Sang-woo asked immediately, concern in his voice as he wiped her tears away. "No," Makina said, laughing through her tears. "The opposite. I just never knew it could be like that. That I could feel like that." Sang-woo's expression turned fierce. He rolled them so she was lying on top of him, her head on his chest, his arms wrapped around her protectively. "That is how it will always be between us," he promised, his hand stroking her back. "I will always make you feel cherished and beautiful, always." They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other. Eventually, Sang-woo carried her to his enormous bathroom, where he filled the tub and washed her body with gentle hands, kissing every curve and telling her in detail exactly what he loved about each part of her. Later, back in bed, Makina curled into his side, feeling safer and more content than she had in years. Sang-woo played with her hair, his voice rumbling in his chest as he told her about his life in Korea, his complicated relationship with his family, the reasons he'd come to America. "I built my empire here because in Seoul I would always be my father's son," he explained. "Here, I am my own man. I make my own rules." "What kind of empire?" Makina asked sleepily. Sang-woo was quiet for a moment. "One that is not always completely legal. I told you my life has dangers, Makina. I meant it." Makina should probably care more about that, should ask more questions. But wrapped in his arms, feeling more satisfied and cherished than ever before, she found she couldn't bring herself to worry about it. "Not tonight. Tell me tomorrow," she mumbled, her eyes drifting closed. "Tonight. Just hold me. Always." Sang-woo promised, pulling the blankets over them both and tucking her closer against his chest. As Makina drifted off to sleep in the arms of this mysterious, dangerous, wonderful man, she thought that maybe 1 week wouldn't be nearly enough. Maybe she'd need forever. 3 days had passed in a beautiful bubble. Makina had gone to her classes during the day while Sang-woo handled his mysterious business, and every evening they came together like magnets, unable to keep their hands off each other. They cooked together, talked for hours, and made love. In every room of the penthouse, Makina was falling hard and fast, and it terrified her. On the 4th evening, Sang-woo took her to dinner at an exclusive restaurant in downtown Chicago. Makina wore a dress he'd bought her, soft and elegant, that made her feel like a princess. As they ate, she noticed 2 men sitting at a nearby table, both wearing dark suits, and watching them carefully. "Who are they?" Makina asked quietly. Sang-woo glanced over without turning his head. "Hyun-sik and Dong-min, my security." "You need security. I told you my life has dangers. I don't take chances with your safety." His hand covered hers on the table. "I know you have questions about what I do. Are you ready to hear the truth?" Makina's heart pounded, but she nodded. "Yes, I need to know." Sang-woo signalled the waiter for more wine, then leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving hers. I own legitimate businesses, real estate, restaurants, import companies, but I also control much of the Korean underground business in Chicago, protection, loans, information, things that exist in the shadows. You're in a gang, Makina whispered. I prefer to think of it as an organization. We have rules, honor, loyalty. We protect our own people and our own interests, but yes, some of what we do is illegal, and it makes me enemies. Makina pulled her hand back, her mind spinning. You're a criminal. I am a businessman who operates in grey areas, Sang-woo corrected. I do not hurt innocents. I do not traffic people or drugs, but I am not a saint, and I will not pretend to be. The question is, can you accept that? Before Makina could answer, the restaurant's front window exploded inward. Glass rained down on the diners, and screaming filled the air. Sang-woo was on his feet instantly, pulling Makina from her chair and pushing her behind him. 3 men rushed through the broken window, guns drawn. Hyun-sik and Dong-min were already moving, their own weapons appearing from nowhere. Sang-woo shoved Makina toward the kitchen. Run! He commanded. Get to the back and stay down. But Makina couldn't move. She watched in horror as one of the attackers aimed at Sang-woo. Without thinking, she screamed his name. Sang-woo turned, and the moment of distraction let Hyun-sik take down the shooter. The fight was brief but brutal. Sang-woo moved with deadly efficiency, disarming one attacker and sending him crashing into a table. Dong-min took down another. Within 2 minutes, all 3 attackers were on the ground, groaning in pain, while police sirens wailed in the distance. Sang-woo strode to Makina, his hands framing her face. Are you hurt? Did any glass hit you? I'm fine, but you're bleeding. Makina touched a cut on his cheek where a piece of glass had grazed him. It's nothing. Sang-woo pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. We need to leave before the police arrive. He guided her quickly to a back exit, Hyun-sik and Dong-min flanking them. They got into a waiting car, and Sang-woo pulled Makina onto his lap, still holding her like he was afraid she might disappear. Back at the penthouse, Makina's hands were shaking as the adrenaline wore off. Sang-woo led her to the bathroom and gently cleaned a small cut on her arm from flying glass. His touch was tender, but she could see the fury in his eyes. Who were they? She asked. Russians. They have been trying to move into my territory for months. This was a message. Sang-woo's jaw was tight. They will regret delivering it. This is your life? People trying to kill you in restaurants? Not often. But yes, sometimes. He finished bandaging her arm and pulled her to her feet, his hands on her waist. I will understand if you want to leave, if this is too much. Makina looked at this man who had shown her what it meant to be truly desired and protected. She thought about going back to her tiny apartment, her safe but lonely life. She thought about never feeling his touch again, never hearing him whisper that she was beautiful, never waking up in his arms. I'm not leaving, she said firmly, but you need to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll be careful, that you'll come home to me, because I can't lose you, Sang-woo. I'm falling in love with you. The words hung in the air between them. Sang-woo's eyes widened, then filled with such emotion that Makina's breath caught. Say it again, he demanded, his voice rough. I'm falling in love with you. Sang-woo kissed her with desperate intensity, his hands tangling in her hair. He walked her backward until her back hit the wall, never breaking the kiss. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. I have loved you since the first moment I saw you in that restaurant, Sang-woo said fiercely. I have loved you through 6 weeks of watching from a distance. I have loved you through every moment of these past few days. You are everything to me, Makina. Everything. Makina pulled him down for another kiss, pouring all her feelings into it. Sang-woo responded with matching passion, his hands roaming her body with possessive touches. He picked her up, and she wrapped her legs around his waist as he carried her to the bedroom. They made love with desperate need, Sang-woo taking her against the wall first, fast and hard, both of them needing to confirm they were alive and together. Then he carried her to the bed and did it again, slower this time, touching every inch of her like he was memorizing her body. "You are mine," he growled against her neck as he moved inside her. "Say it. Tell me you're mine." "I'm yours," Makina gasped, her nails digging into his shoulders. "Only yours, Sang-woo." He made her say it again and again, his movements becoming more intense until they both shattered together. Afterward, Sang-woo held her close, his hands gentle now, soothing over the places he'd gripped too hard in his passion. "Did I hurt you?" he asked, kissing her shoulder. "No, I loved it. I love feeling how much you want me." Sang-woo groaned and pulled her tighter against him. "I will always want you. Even when we are old and grey, I will still look at you and want to touch you everywhere." They lay tangled together in comfortable silence until Makina spoke again. "Tell me about your business, all of it. If I'm going to be part of your life, I need to understand." So Sang-woo told her. He explained about the organisation he'd built, the legitimate fronts and the underground operations. He told her about the men who worked for him, the territories they controlled, the rules they lived by. He was honest about the violence sometimes required, the moral grey areas he operated in. Makina listened without judgment, trying to understand this world she was entering. It scared her, but not enough to make her leave. She'd seen tonight how dangerous it could be, but she'd also seen how efficiently Sang-woo and his men had protected everyone in that restaurant. "I need you to meet Hyun-sik and Dong-min properly," Sang-woo said. "They will be your protection when I cannot be with you. You need to trust them." The next day, Sang-woo took her to one of his legitimate businesses, a high-end restaurant he owned. In a private room, he introduced her to his two most trusted men. Hyun-sik was tall and coldly handsome, with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. He bowed formally to Makina. "It is an honour to meet the woman who has captured our leader's heart. I will protect you with my life." Dong-min was younger and had a friendly smile that made Makina relax. "Welcome to the family, Makina. Anyone who makes the boss smile like he does around you is someone worth protecting." Over lunch, Makina got to know them better. Hyun-sik was serious but thoughtful, asking intelligent questions about her studies. Dong-min was funny and warm, telling stories about Sang-woo that made her laugh. By the end of the meal, she understood why Sang-woo trusted these men with his life. That evening, back at the penthouse, Makina made a decision. She pulled out her phone and called her tiny apartment's landlord, giving notice that she wouldn't be renewing her lease. Sang-woo found her on the balcony afterward, staring out at the city. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Did you just do what I think you did?" he asked. "My week is up tomorrow, but I don't want to leave. I want to stay here, with you, for as long as you'll have me." Sang-woo turned her in his arms, his eyes blazing with emotion. "I will have you forever, until the day I die, and beyond. You are my heart now, Makina, the best part of me." He kissed her deeply, then swept her into his arms and carried her inside. They made love on the couch, then in the shower, then finally in bed, unable to get enough of each other. And when they finally fell asleep in each other's arms, Makina knew she'd made the right choice. This dangerous, beautiful man was hers, and she was his. And somehow, they would make it work. 6 months passed in a blur of happiness. Makina finished her graduate degree with honours, while Sang-woo expanded his legitimate businesses, slowly transitioning away from the more dangerous parts of his empire. They fell into a comfortable routine. Mornings started with coffee on the balcony and usually ended with them being late because they couldn't keep their hands off each other. Evenings were spent cooking together, talking about their days, and making love in creative locations throughout the penthouse. Makina had become part of Sang-woo's world. She attended business dinners where she charmed his associates with her intelligence and warmth. She learned to read the subtle signs of danger and trust. Hyun-sik and Dong-min, who had indeed become like protective brothers to her. She even started helping Sang-woo with his legitimate businesses, using her public health background to develop employee wellness programs for his restaurants and properties. But the best moments were the quiet ones. Sunday mornings when they stayed in bed until noon, feeding each other breakfast and laughing at silly things. Wednesday evenings when Sang-woo would come home early and find her studying, and would massage her shoulders until she melted against him. Late nights when they would sit on the balcony, Makina between his legs with his arms wrapped around her, just talking about everything and nothing. "I love you," became as natural as breathing. They said it constantly, in passing and in passion, in quiet moments and loud ones. One Friday, Sang-woo surprised Makina by cancelling all his meetings. "Pack a bag. We're taking a trip." "Where are we going?" Makina asked, excited. "It's a surprise, but bring something nice. I want to take you somewhere special." They flew to New Orleans, and Makina fell in love with the city immediately. Sang-woo had rented a beautiful suite in the French Quarter, and they spent 3 days exploring. They wandered through the historic streets, listened to jazz music spilling from every doorway, and ate beignets until they were covered in powdered sugar. Sang-woo held her hand everywhere they went, pulled her close for kisses on random street corners, and looked at her like she was the only woman in the world. On their last evening, he took her to a private restaurant with a balcony overlooking the Mississippi River. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and the river glowed golden in the fading light. They had just finished dinner when Sang-woo stood and came around the table. Makina's heart started pounding when she saw the serious expression on his face. He took her hand and pulled her to her feet, leading her to the balcony railing. "Makina, when I saw you sitting in that restaurant 6 months ago, crying because some fool couldn't see your worth, I knew my life was about to change. I knew you were going to be important to me, but I had no idea you would become everything." He reached into his pocket, and Makina's breath caught when he pulled out a small velvet box. Tears already started forming in her eyes. "You have made me a better man. You have brought light and laughter into my dark world. You have shown me what real love feels like, what it means to put someone else's happiness above everything." Sang-woo opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring that caught the sunset light and sparkled like fire. "I want to spend every day for the rest of my life making you as happy as you make me. Makina, will you marry me?" "Yes," Makina sobbed, pulling him up and throwing her arms around his neck. "Yes, yes, yes." Sang-woo laughed with pure joy, spinning her around before setting her down and sliding the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, and Makina couldn't stop staring at it through her tears. Then Sang-woo was kissing her, deep and passionate, and the few other diners on the balcony started clapping. Back at their suite, they celebrated their engagement properly. Sang-woo undressed her slowly, kissing every inch of skin he revealed, telling her how much he loved her with every touch. They made love as the sun finished setting, slow and tender and full of emotion. Then again, faster and more desperate as the moon rose, and once more in the early morning hours, unable to get enough of each other. Between rounds, they talked about their future, where they would live, what kind of wedding they wanted, how many children they hoped to have. Sang-woo traced patterns on Makina's bare stomach and said he wanted at least 3 kids. Makina laughed and said they'd start with 1 and see how it went. "I need to call my family." McKenna said as dawn light started creeping through the windows. "They're going to freak out." Sang-woo handed her the phone with a smile. "Tell them I promise to take care of their daughter for the rest of my life." McKenna called her mother first. Despite the early hour in Tanzania, her mother answered immediately, somehow already knowing something important had happened. When McKenna told her about the engagement, her mother cried with happiness, then demanded to speak to Sang-woo. McKenna handed over the phone nervously, but Sang-woo spoke to her mother in his careful English, respectfully asking for her blessing. Whatever he said made her mother cry harder and give it enthusiastically. After calling her siblings and her father, all of whom were excited and wanted to know when they could meet Sang-woo, McKenna finally hung up. She turned to find Sang-woo watching her with such love in his eyes that it made her heart ache. "They love you already," she said, crawling back into bed with him. "My mother said you sound like a good man who will keep me safe." "I will, always." Sang-woo pulled her close, tucking her head under his chin. "Your happiness and safety are the most important things in my world now." They spent one more day in New Orleans, walking hand in hand through the city as an engaged couple. Sang-woo bought her a beautiful necklace from a street artist, and McKenna bought him a vintage jazz record she knew he'd love. They fed each other lunch at a cafe and stole kisses in quiet corners. That night, their last in New Orleans, they made love on the balcony under the stars, McKenna straddling Sang-woo on a lounge chair, moving slowly while he gripped her hips and told her in Korean how beautiful she was, how perfect, how much he loved her curves and her skin and her soul. When they both climaxed together, McKenna collapsed against his chest, and Sang-woo wrapped his arms around her protectively, neither of them willing to move, even as the night air cooled their heated skin. "I cannot wait to marry you," Sang-woo whispered into her hair. "I cannot wait to call you my wife and make babies with you and grow old watching you be brilliant at everything you do." "Then let's not wait long," McKenna said, tilting her head back to kiss him. "I want to be your wife as soon as possible." 6 months, Sang-woo decided. That gives us time to plan something perfect, but not so long that I have to wait forever to make you mine legally. McKenna agreed, and they sealed the decision with another round of lovemaking that left them both exhausted and completely satisfied. Flying home to Chicago the next day, McKenna stared at her ring and marveled at how much her life had changed. 6 months ago, she'd been crying in a restaurant, devastated by Derek's cruelty. Now she was engaged to the most incredible man she'd ever met, living a life she'd never dreamed possible. When they got back to the penthouse, Hyun-sik and Dong-min were waiting with champagne and congratulations. They'd somehow already heard the news, probably because Sang-woo had told them immediately after she said yes. Both men hugged McKenna carefully, treating her like precious glass, and promised to help plan a wedding that would be worthy of their boss's bride. That night, after the celebrations died down, McKenna and Sang-woo lay in bed together, planning their future. They decided on a wedding in Georgia, blending both their cultures. They talked about the home they would buy, something with a yard for children to play in, but still close to the city. They discussed McKenna's career plans now that she had her degree, and Sang-woo promised to support whatever she wanted to do. "I am so lucky," McKenna whispered as sleep started to claim her. "I never thought I could be this happy." "You deserve all the happiness in the world," Sang-woo said, kissing her forehead, "and I plan to spend the rest of my life giving it to you." As McKenna drifted off to sleep, safe and warm in her fiancé's arms, wearing his ring on her finger, she thought about how one terrible moment had led to the best thing that ever happened to her. Sometimes the worst nights led to the most beautiful forevers. 2 months before the wedding, McKenna was leaving campus after a late meeting when she saw a familiar figure leaning against her car. Derek looked terrible. His clothes were wrinkled, his face unshaven, and his eyes had dark circles under them. When he saw her, he pushed off the car and walked toward her. "Makina, we need to talk." Makina's first instinct was to call Hyun-sik, who was parked nearby in his usual security detail, but something about Derek's desperate expression made her pause. "What do you want, Derek? I heard you're getting married. To him. To Sang-woo." Derek's voice was bitter. "Looks like you landed on your feet pretty quick after I dumped you." "You mean after you humiliated me in public?" Makina corrected coldly. "What do you want?" Derek's fake confidence crumbled. "I'm in trouble, Makina, bad trouble. I owe money to some dangerous people, gambling debts. They're threatening me. That's not my problem. But you have access to money now. Lots of it. Your rich fiancé could help me out without even noticing." Derek stepped closer, and Makina held her ground. "I just need 50,000. That's nothing to him." "Absolutely not. You made your choices, Derek. Deal with the consequences." Derek's expression turned ugly. "I don't think you understand. I know things about your precious fiancé, about his business, the illegal stuff. If you don't help me, I'll go to the authorities. I'll make sure he goes to prison." Ice flooded Makina's veins. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm giving you a chance to help an old friend. That's all." But the menace in his voice was clear. Makina pulled out her phone. "Leave. Now. Or I call security, and you really won't like what happens next." Derek grabbed her wrist, and instantly, Hyun-sik was there, appearing out of nowhere. He twisted Derek's arm behind his back smoothly, forcing him to his knees on the pavement. "Do not touch her," Hyun-sik said coldly. "Ever." "Let him go," Makina said quietly. To Derek, she added, "I'll meet you tomorrow, noon, at the coffee shop near campus. Come alone, and we'll talk about your debt." Derek nodded frantically, and Hyun-sik released him. He scrambled to his feet and ran. Hyun-sik turned to Makina with concern in his usually emotionless eyes. "Should I tell Sang-woo?" "Not yet. Let me handle this first." Makina's mind was already working through the problem. "But be ready tomorrow. I might need backup." The next day, Makina met Derek with a briefcase full of cash. She'd withdrawn it from her own accounts. Money Sang-woo had been putting aside for her personal use. Derek's eyes went wide when she opened it. "This is your debt plus 10,000 more," Makina said quietly. "Take it and disappear. Move to another city, another state. Start over somewhere far from here." "You're just giving this to me?" Derek looked suspicious. "I'm buying your silence and your absence. You will never contact me again. You will never speak about Sang-woo or his business to anyone. And if you break this agreement, Derek, I promise you will regret it. Sang-woo might be transitioning to legitimate business, but he still has resources that will find you anywhere." Derek swallowed hard, finally understanding the woman Makina had become. She wasn't the soft, insecure girl he'd dumped anymore. She was strong, confident, and protected by someone far more powerful than he'd ever be. "I'll leave," Derek said quietly. "And Makina, for what it's worth, I'm sorry about what I said that night. You're beautiful, and I was an idiot." "Yes, you were. But that night led me to Sang-woo, so I should probably thank you." Makina stood up. "Goodbye, Derek. Have a better life than the one you had here." She walked out of the coffee shop, leaving Derek with the money and his regrets. Hyun-sik was waiting by the car. "It's done," he asked. "It's done. He'll be gone within the week." But Makina knew she had to tell Sang-woo what happened. She couldn't keep secrets from him, not about something this important. That evening, she waited until after dinner, when they were relaxing on the couch. Sang-woo had his arm around her shoulders, and they were watching the city lights, content in their comfortable silence. "I need to tell you something," Makina said quietly. She explained everything, Derek's threats, the money she'd paid him, the deal she'd made. Sang-woo's body went rigid beside her, and when she finished, he carefully extracted himself from the couch and walked to the window. His hands were clenched into fists. "You handled this alone," he said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You paid him from your own money. You put yourself at risk." "I thought I was protecting you," McKenna said, standing up. "I thought I was handling it before it became a bigger problem." Sang-woo turned, and the fury in his eyes made her take a step back. "You should have told me immediately. He grabbed you, McKenna. He threatened you. He could have hurt you." "But he didn't. Hyun-sik was there. That's not the point." Sang-woo's voice rose, and McKenna had never seen him this angry. "You are about to be my wife. You are the most important person in my world. When someone threatens you, I need to know. I need to be the one to protect you. I can protect myself." McKenna shot back, her own temper rising. "I'm not some delicate flower that needs you to fight all my battles. This isn't about you being weak. It's about you being mine." Sang-woo crossed the room in 2 strides, gripping her shoulders. "That man humiliated you once, and I let him walk away because you needed closure, but he came back. He put his hands on you, and I should have been there." McKenna saw the fear underneath his anger, the terror that something could have happened to her. "I'm sorry," she said softly, reaching up to cup his face. "You're right. I should have told you immediately. I was just trying to handle it quickly and quietly. I don't want quick and quiet. I want you safe, always safe." Sang-woo pulled her against his chest, his arms wrapping around her so tight she could barely breathe. "Promise me. Promise you'll tell me everything from now on, even the things you think you can handle alone. I promise," McKenna whispered into his chest. They stood like that for a long moment, just holding each other. Then Sang-woo pulled back, his eyes still dark but with different emotions now. He kissed her hard, almost punishing, and McKenna kissed him back with equal intensity. "I need you," he growled against her mouth. "Right now. I need to feel that you're here and safe and mine." McKenna understood. She let him back her toward the bedroom, let him strip off her clothes with shaking hands, let him lay her on the bed and cover her body with his. When he entered her, it was with desperate need, and McKenna wrapped herself around him, taking everything he needed to give. "Say you're mine," Sang-woo demanded, his hips moving hard and fast. "Say it." "I'm yours," McKenna gasped. "Only yours. Always yours." He made love to her with fierce possession, touching every curve, kissing every inch of skin he could reach, whispering in Korean between English words. "Beautiful, perfect, mine, my heart, my everything." When they both climaxed, Sang-woo collapsed on top of her, his face buried in her neck. McKenna held him, stroking his hair, feeling his heart pounding against hers. "I can't lose you," he whispered. "I would not survive it." "You won't lose me. I'm not going anywhere." McKenna tilted his face up to kiss him softly. "We're forever, remember?" Sang-woo kissed her again, slower this time, with all the love and devotion he felt. Then he made love to her again, gentler now, worshipping her body with his hands and mouth until she was trembling beneath him. Afterward, they lay tangled together, sweaty and satisfied. Sang-woo traced patterns on her bare skin while McKenna played with his hair. "Derek is gone," Sang-woo said quietly. "I had Dong-min check. He left Chicago this afternoon with a bus ticket to California. He won't be back." "Good," McKenna said simply. "The money you spent, I'm putting back in your account. Doubled." "Sang-woo, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do. You protected me and what we have. That deserves to be rewarded." He kissed her shoulder. "But next time something like this happens, you tell me immediately. We handle it together. Agreed?" "Agreed." They fell into comfortable silence again, just enjoying being close. Eventually, Sang-woo spoke again, his voice thoughtful. "You know what I realized today? When Hyun-sik told me what happened, my first thought wasn't about the threat to my business. It was about you, about whether you were scared or hurt. That's when I knew." "Knew what?" Makina asked. "That I've completely transformed my priorities. A year ago, my business, my empire, my reputation, those were everything to me. Now they're just things that give me resources to protect what really matters. You, Makina. You're what matters. Everything else is just noise." Makina's eyes filled with tears. "I love you so much. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love another person." Sang-woo pulled her on top of him, settling her over his hips. "Now, show me again that you're mine. I need to feel you one more time tonight." Makina smiled and began to move, taking him inside her slowly while his hands gripped her waist. They made love lazily this time, drawing it out, enjoying every sensation. And when they finally fell asleep hours later, wrapped around each other, both of them knew that no matter what challenges came their way, they would face them together, because they were each other's forever. And nothing and no one would ever change that. 3 weeks before the wedding, Sang-woo told Makina it was time to meet his parents. They flew to Boston on a Friday morning, and Makina's stomach churned with nerves the entire flight. Sang-woo held her hand, occasionally bringing it to his lips to kiss her knuckles. "They will love you," he assured her for the 10th time. "You don't know that. What if they hate that I'm African? What if they think I'm not good enough for you?" Sang-woo's eyes flashed. "Then they will be wrong, and I will tell them so. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, and if they cannot see that, it's their loss." But when they arrived at his parents' beautiful home in a wealthy Boston suburb, Makina's fears seemed justified. Sang-woo's mother, an elegant woman in her 60s with perfect posture and cold eyes, looked Makina up and down like she was inspecting a piece of furniture and finding it wanting. "So, you are the girl who has captured my son's attention," she said in perfect English, though her accent was thicker than Sang-woo's. "Mother, this is Makina, my fiancée, the woman I love and will marry in 3 weeks." Sang-woo's arm tightened around Makina's waist. His father, quieter but warmer, shook Makina's hand with a kind smile. "Welcome to our home. Please, come in. You must be tired from travelling." Lunch was awkward. Sang-woo's mother asked pointed questions about Makina's family background, her education, her plans for the future. Each question felt like a test Makina was failing. She could see Sang-woo getting more and more frustrated beside her. "Mother, enough," he finally said firmly. "Makina is not here to be interrogated. I am simply getting to know the woman my son has chosen. Is that so wrong?" His mother's smile didn't reach her eyes. "In Korea, we value family compatibility, tradition, shared backgrounds. You are marrying someone from a completely different world, Sang-woo. I am allowed to have concerns." She is from a different world, yes, a world that values kindness, hard work, and genuine connection, things that matter more than tradition or background. Sang-woo stood up, pulling Makina with him. "If you cannot treat my future wife with respect, we will leave." His father spoke up quickly. "Please, sit. Everyone is just nervous about meeting each other. Let's start over." "Yes." The afternoon improved slightly, with Sang-woo's father asking genuinely interested questions about Tanzania and Makina's work in public health. But his mother remained cold, barely speaking directly to Makina. That evening, Sang-woo took Makina out to dinner at their hotel, needing to escape the tension. "I'm sorry," he said over wine. "She had no right to treat you like that. She's protecting you in her own way. I'm not what she imagined for you. You're better than anything I could have imagined for myself." Sang-woo reached across the table to take her hand. "If she cannot accept you, then she cannot be part of our lives. It's that simple. But the next morning, Sangwoo's mother asked to speak with McKenna privately. McKenna's heart pounded as she followed the older woman to a beautiful garden behind the house. They walked in silence for a moment before his mother spoke. "My son loves you very much. I have never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." "I love him too," McKenna said quietly. "More than anything. Love is important, yes, but marriage is about more than love. It's about compatibility, shared values, facing challenges together." His mother turned to face her. "My son lives a dangerous life. The business he is in, even as he tries to leave it, there will always be risks. Can you handle that? Can you be the strong woman he needs beside him?" McKenna met her eyes without flinching. "I've already faced those dangers. I've been threatened. I've seen violence. I've lived in that world for almost a year now. And I choose to stay because what I have with your son is worth any risk. He makes me stronger, and I make him better. We balance each other. He has changed since he met you, become softer in some ways, harder in others, more focused on building something legitimate rather than just accumulating power." His mother's expression remained neutral. "You really love him. This is not about his money or his status. I would love your son if he had nothing," McKenna said firmly. "I would love him if we had to live in my tiny old apartment and eat cheap food. The money, the penthouse, the lifestyle, those are nice, but they're not why I'm marrying him. I'm marrying him because he sees me, really sees me, and loves every part of what he sees. Because he makes me laugh and challenges me to be better. Because when I'm with him, I'm home." Something shifted in his mother's face. Her cold expression cracked slightly, and McKenna saw vulnerability underneath. "I worried he would never find someone who loved him for himself, rather than what he could provide. He has always attracted the wrong type of attention. I understand your concerns. If I had a son, I would want to protect him too. But I promise you, I will spend the rest of my life making him happy, supporting his dreams, and loving him with everything I have. Your son deserves that, and I intend to give it to him." His mother studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Perhaps I have been too harsh. It is difficult to let go of expectations, to accept that our children's paths may differ from what we imagined. But I can see you have a strong spirit, that you will not let life break you. That is important for a woman in my son's world." They walked back to the house together, and though his mother wasn't suddenly warm and welcoming, she was noticeably less cold. At lunch, she actually asked McKenna about her wedding plans and offered suggestions from Korean traditions that might be incorporated. Sangwoo noticed the change immediately and caught McKenna's eye across the table, raising his eyebrows in question. She just smiled and shook her head. She would tell him later what his mother had said. When they left Boston the next day, Sangwoo's mother actually hugged McKenna, briefly and stiffly, but it was something. "Take care of my son," she said quietly. "Always," McKenna promised. On the flight home, Sangwoo demanded to know what McKenna had said to change his mother's mind. McKenna just told him she'd been honest about her feelings and that sometimes honesty was enough. 2 days later, they flew to Tanzania. McKenna was nervous for completely different reasons. Her family was huge, loud, and overwhelming. They lived simply compared to Sangwoo's world. What if he was disappointed? What if he didn't like them? But from the moment they arrived at her family's home in Dar es Salaam, Sangwoo charmed everyone. He greeted her parents formally and respectfully, presenting them with expensive gifts he'd carefully chosen. He played with her younger siblings, letting them hang on his arms and ask him a million questions. He ate her mother's cooking and praised every dish enthusiastically. He even tried to learn some Swahili phrases, mangling the pronunciation so badly that everyone laughed. That night, Makina's father took Sang-woo aside for a private conversation. Makina watched nervously from the kitchen window as they walked around the small yard together. When they came back inside, both men were smiling. "Your father has given me his blessing," Sang-woo told her later, pulling her into his arms. "He also threatened very politely to hurt me if I ever make you unhappy." Makina laughed. "That sounds like my dad." They spent a week in Tanzania, and Sang-woo fell in love with the country. He loved the warmth of the people, the vibrant colours, the food, the ocean. On their last day, he surprised Makina by taking her to a private beach house he'd rented without telling her. The house was beautiful, right on the ocean, with the sound of waves filling every room. They spent the afternoon swimming and laying on the beach, enjoying the privacy. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and reds, they made love on the balcony overlooking the Indian Ocean. Sang-woo took his time, kissing every inch of Makina's sun-warmed skin, tasting the salt from the ocean spray. They moved together, slowly, matching the rhythm of the waves, their bodies perfectly in sync after months of learning exactly what pleased each other. "I want to bring our children here someday," Sang-woo said afterward, holding Makina against his chest as they watched the stars come out. "I want them to know your home, your culture, your family. I want them to understand both sides of their heritage." "How many children are we talking about?" Makina asked with a smile. "At least 3, maybe 4. Sang-woo's hand settled on her stomach. "I want to fill our home with noise and laughter and love. I want to give them the family I never really had growing up." 3 or 4? Makina laughed. "That's a lot of pregnancies. And I will take care of you through every single one. Massage your feet, bring you strange food at midnight, tell you how beautiful you look even when you feel huge." He kissed her temple. "I will be there for all of it." They made love again under the stars, slower and sweeter, whispering promises about their future, about the babies they would make, the life they would build, the love they would share until they were old and grey. Flying back to Chicago the next day, Makina felt a completeness she'd never experienced before. Both their families had given their blessing. In 2 weeks, she would become Sang-woo's wife. And then they would start building the forever they'd been dreaming about. "What are you thinking?" Sang-woo asked, watching her stare out the airplane window with a soft smile. "I'm thinking that I'm the luckiest woman in the world and that I can't wait to marry you." Sang-woo leaned over to kiss her deeply, not caring that they were in first class with other passengers nearby. When he pulled back, his eyes were full of love and promise. 2 more weeks, and you'll be mine forever, legally, officially, completely mine." "I'm already yours," Makina reminded him. "The wedding is just a formality." "Maybe, but I want the formality. I want the rings and the vows and the party. I want everyone to know that you chose me and I chose you, and nothing will ever change that." Makina kissed him again, pouring all her love into it. 2 more weeks until she became Mrs. Sang-woo. 2 more weeks until their forever officially began. She couldn't wait. The black van screeched to a halt, and rough hands shoved Makina inside. Her head throbbed where they had struck her outside the boutique. The shopping bags she had been carrying were now scattered across the sidewalk, abandoned. She tried to focus through the pain as a cloth bag was pulled over her head, drowning her in darkness. "Sang-woo will pay for what he did," a voice growled in accented English, "and she's going to be the price." Fear clawed at Makina's throat, but she forced herself to breathe slowly. Panic would not save her. She remembered the conversations she and Sang-woo had shared late at night, his fingers tracing patterns on her skin as he taught her about survival. Stay calm. Observe everything. Leave traces. As they dragged her from the van, she deliberately dropped her bracelet, the one Sang-woo had given her with the small tracking device hidden in the charm. She stumbled on the steps, scratching the doorframe with her ring. Every small clue might lead him to her. They threw her into a chair in what smelled like an old warehouse. The bag came off her head, and she blinked in the dim light. 5 men surrounded her, all wearing masks. The leader stepped forward, his eyes cold above the black fabric. "Your boyfriend thinks he owns this city," he said. "Time to teach him a lesson about respect." Makina lifted her chin, remembering her grandmother's strength, her mother's dignity. "You have made a terrible mistake." The man laughed. "Has he told you what kind of monster he really is? The things he's done?" "I know exactly who he is," Makina said firmly, "and you should be running right now, because when he finds me, and he will, nothing will save you." Meanwhile, across the city, Sang-woo stood in his penthouse, staring at his phone. Makina should have been home an hour ago. His calls went straight to voicemail. The unease in his chest grew into full panic when Hyun-sik burst through the door. "Boss, her security detail is down. We found blood on the sidewalk outside Magnificent Mile." Something dark and primal exploded inside Sang-woo. He grabbed his jacket, his gun, his rage. "Find her, now! Tear this city apart!" Dongmin rushed in with a laptop. "Her bracelet is transmitting Northwest Warehouse District." Sang-woo's eyes went black with fury. "Get everyone. I want 40 men ready in 10 minutes. "Boss, it could be a trap," Hyun-sik warned. "I don't care if it's a trap. She's in there." Sang-woo's voice was deadly calm. "Anyone who touched her dies tonight." The warehouse district was silent when Sang-woo's convoy arrived. He moved through the shadows like a predator, his men fanning out around him. Inside the building, he could hear voices. One of them was Makina's, strong and defiant even in captivity. Pride and terror warred in his chest. That was his woman, refusing to break. The assault was swift and brutal. Sang-woo kicked in the door, gun raised. The first kidnapper fell before he could react. The second reached for Makina, and Sang-woo put 2 bullets in him without hesitation. Chaos erupted around them. "Get down!" Sang-woo shouted to Makina. She dropped to the floor as gunfire exploded through the warehouse. Sang-woo fought his way to her, taking down anyone in his path. A bullet grazed his shoulder, another hit his side, but he did not stop. Nothing would stop him from reaching her. Finally, he was there, cutting through her bonds, pulling her against him. "I've got you. You're safe now." Makina clung to him, feeling his blood seeping through his shirt. "You're hurt. I don't care." He lifted her into his arms, carrying her toward the exit while his men finished the fight behind them. In the car, speeding toward the hospital, Makina pressed her hands against his wounds, tears streaming down her face. "Don't you dare die on me, Sang-woo." He smiled despite the pain, touching her cheek. "Never. I have too much to live for." The hospital room was quiet except for the steady beep of monitors. Sang-woo lay in the bed, bandaged but alive. The doctors said he would recover fully. Makina had not left his side for 2 days. "You should rest," Sang-woo murmured, his voice still weak. "I'm not going anywhere," she said fiercely. "Ever. Do you understand me? I can't lose you. I won't survive it." He reached for her hand, pulling her closer. "Makina, this life, it's too dangerous for you. Maybe you should—" "Don't." She pressed her fingers to his lips. "Don't you dare push me away. I choose you. I choose this. All of it. Even knowing what I am. What I've done. Especially knowing." She climbed carefully into the hospital bed beside him, mindful of his injuries. "You saved me tonight. You've saved me every day since we met. I'm not leaving." Sang-woo pulled her against his good side, breathing in her scent. The fear he had felt, thinking he might lose her, had been unbearable. "I'm going to change things, legitimize the businesses. Whatever it takes to keep you safe, we'll figure it out together," Makina whispered. That night, When the hospital was quiet and the nurses had finished their rounds, McKenna locked the door. She turned to find Sang-woo watching her with heat in his eyes despite his injuries. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice dropping low. "I need to feel you," she said simply. "I need to know you're really here, really alive." She approached the bed slowly, carefully climbing over him. His hands found her hips, pulling her down for a kiss that was both tender and desperate. They made love slowly, carefully, her movements gentle to avoid hurting him. Every touch was a promise, every kiss a vow. They were alive, together, and nothing would separate them again. Afterward, wrapped in each other's arms, Sang-woo made his decision. "I'm done with the old ways. From now on, we build something legitimate, something our children can be proud of." McKenna smiled against his chest. "Our children?" "Yes." He tilted her face up to his. "Marry me, McKenna. Make this official. Be my wife." "I already said yes, remember? New Orleans?" "I know, but after tonight, after almost losing you," his voice cracked slightly, "I need you to know that you're my everything, my reason for changing, for becoming better." She kissed him softly. "Then let's start planning our forever." 12 months had transformed everything. The dangerous edges of Sang-woo's empire had been smoothed into legitimate businesses, hotels, restaurants, real estate. All clean, all legal. He still maintained certain connections, because a man did not simply walk away from that world completely, but McKenna's safety was guaranteed now. Savannah in spring was breathtaking. The historic squares overflowed with azaleas, and Spanish moss hung from ancient oaks like nature's curtains. The venue was a restored antebellum mansion with gardens that seemed to exist outside of time. McKenna stood in the bridal suite, barely recognizing herself in the mirror. Her dress was a masterpiece of ivory silk that hugged her curves before flowing into a dramatic train. The designer had created something that honored both her African heritage and Korean wedding traditions. Gold threading formed intricate patterns across the bodice, and her headpiece combined a traditional Korean binyo with Tanzanian wedding beadwork. "You look like a queen," her sister Zuri said, adjusting the veil. Her mother entered, tears already flowing. "My daughter, so beautiful, so strong." "Mama, don't make me cry yet." McKenna laughed, fanning her face. A knock at the door revealed Dong-min, grinning widely in his formal suit. "The groom is about to lose his mind waiting. Also, I've never seen Boss look so nervous. It's hilarious." McKenna's heart fluttered. After everything they had been through, this moment felt almost surreal. Outside, 300 guests filled the garden. Sang-woo's Korean family sat on one side, McKenna's Tanzanian relatives on the other, but the division was friendly now. Both families had learned to appreciate the love that had brought them together. Sang-woo waited at the altar, in a custom black suit with Korean embroidery detail. Hyun-sik stood beside him as best man, actually smiling for once. When the music began, Sang-woo's breath caught. McKenna appeared at the end of the aisle on her father's arm. The setting sun caught her skin, making her glow like bronze touched by fire. Sang-woo felt his eyes burn with emotion. This woman, this incredible woman, had chosen him, had transformed him, had made him believe in something beyond power and control. The ceremony blended traditions beautifully. They performed the Korean pieback, bowing to their parents. They jumped the broom in honor of McKenna's ancestors. The officiant spoke in English, Korean, and Swahili, declaring their union before God and community. When Sang-woo lifted McKenna's veil, his hands trembled. "You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. Just kiss me already," she whispered, smiling through happy tears. Their kiss brought thunderous applause. As they walked back down the aisle together, McKenna saw nothing but their future, stretching bright and beautiful before them. The reception was a celebration unlike any other. Korean drummers performed alongside Tanzanian dancers. The food was a fusion feast that had guests returning to the buffet multiple times. Sangwoo's toast made everyone cry, and Makana's made everyone laugh. But finally, after hours of celebration, they escaped to their suite in the mansion's private wing. Sangwoo carried Makina over the threshold, kicking the door closed behind them. He set her down carefully, his eyes dark with desire and love. "Hello, wife," he murmured. "Hello, husband," she replied, her voice breathless. He circled her slowly, taking in every detail. "I have been waiting all day to unwrap this present." His fingers found the buttons at her back, unfastening them one by one with agonizing slowness. The dress slipped away, revealing the ivory lingerie she wore beneath. Sangwoo made a sound low in his throat. "Makina." He traced the curve of her waist, her hips, her thighs. "How did I get so lucky?" She reached for his jacket, pushing it off his shoulders. "We both got lucky. Now stop talking and make love to your wife." They moved together toward the enormous bed, shedding clothes as they went. Sangwoo laid her down on the silk sheets, covering her body with his. Every kiss was worship. Every touch was reverence. "I love you," he whispered against her skin. "Every beautiful inch of you." Makana arched beneath him as his hands and mouth explored familiar territory, made new by the vows they had spoken. Show me how much." He did, taking his time, making her cry out his name again and again. They made love through the night, celebrating their union, promising forever with every movement. At dawn, they lay tangled together, satisfied and complete. "So this is marriage," Makana said, trailing her fingers over his chest. Sangwoo caught her hand, kissing her fingers. Just the beginning. 6 months later, they stood in their new home in a quiet Chicago suburb. The house was large but not ostentatious, with a big backyard and room to grow. Hyun-sik and Dong-min had helped them move in, complaining about heavy furniture while secretly being thrilled their boss had found peace. Makana stood in the kitchen, sipping ginger tea to settle her stomach. Sangwoo came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, his hands resting on her growing belly. "How are my two favorite people?" he asked, kissing her neck. "Your son is using my bladder as a soccer ball," she laughed. "Just like his father, stubborn." They stood together, watching the sunset paint their backyard gold. Makana thought about the girl who had been humiliated in a restaurant, who had felt unworthy and unloved. That girl was gone, replaced by a woman who knew her value, who had found a love that defied every expectation. "What are you thinking?" Sangwoo asked. "That I would go through it all again," she said softly. "Every scary moment, every challenge, because it led me here, to you, to this." He turned her in his arms, kissing her deeply. "You saved me, Makana. Gave me a reason to be better. We saved each other." Their son kicked, making them both laugh. Outside, the Chicago skyline glittered in the distance, but they had built their sanctuary here, away from the chaos. Sangwoo had kept his word. Most of his business was legitimate now, though he maintained enough influence to protect what mattered most. As night fell and they moved to the couch together, Makana felt completely at peace. Love had found her when she least expected it. Love had transformed them both, and love would carry them through whatever came next. Because some stories do not end. They simply begin again, stronger than before. Do you want more passionate romance that defies expectations? Follow for stories where love conquers all, where curvy women find powerful men who worship them, and where cultural boundaries dissolve in the heat of true connection. Your next favourite love story is just a click away.